LSU. Boom! All night long. Yes. Let's freaking go. Does LSU and Brian Kelly have a clear-cut number one player in the class of 2024? I am loving what I heard this weekend from Official Visit Weekend. I think a lot of you have heard that stat where LSU didn't have any of their commitments actually go on any other official visits over this past weekend. That should get you pretty excited as we move closer to the signing day. Now, here is the weird thing about December is, like I've said for a gazillion time over, the college football calendar sucks. There is a whole lot going on right now, okay? You had Sage Ryan enter the transfer portal over this weekend. What is his legacy? Let me know what you guys think. You also had Xavier Thomas commit to LSU. You had Jordan Gilbert commit to LSU via the transfer portal. Let me know what you guys think about that. I have a film study on Xavier Thomas that will air Monday night at 6 p.m. Central. You do not want to miss what this guy has been able to do up to this point in his college career in an absolutely not so great, hellaciously poor coached environment. Jordan Gilbert's a guy who's played a lot of football. Do we need to go get more defensive backs? I am of the belief that there are plenty of other DBs that we can go out there and go get. Okay? But I do have to dedicate the start of this live stream tonight, okay, with one of the most impressive state championship performances at one of the highest levels of high school football. Check out these two runs from Kaden Durham, okay? This is a house call he took, and it is ridiculous that it wasn't just this state championship game. It is practically every game that this guy played in high school. It was house call after house call after house call. Now, I understand that someone like me would say, well, you know, Kaden Durham's not the biggest guy, and you see these holes he's running through. They look pretty big to me, but you do see some broken tackles. I'll show you the two runs. He also had a third touchdown run, 230 yards rushing in the state championship game. At this point, okay, I am still somewhat early in my recruiting evaluations for everyone. Tradez Green had a huge playoff for Zachary High School in Louisiana. But even though the recruiting services won't agree with this opinion, to me, Kaden Durham is number one at this point. Now, that is subject to change, but there is not a single player that LSU has committed in this class right now that had a better high school career than him. The stats are the stats. And just to give you a little bit of a background, all right, I understand. I get it that there are so many players in the high school ranks that would say, look, I dominated my high school competition. I get it. But Kaden Durham is unreal. He is one of the best Texas high school running backs we've seen. And we're talking about Texas. Do you know all the great running backs that have come out of the state of Texas? They might be number one on the hierarchy of all-time list. This guy took a program under Reginald Samples, that's the name of their coach. He'd been trying so hard to get that state championship. He had been trying so hard to get over the hump. And Duncanville has had all this talent, and they have multiple 5-stars on the team. I get it. I totally get it. There are so many players that are on that Duncanville team that are good. But why was he consistently the best player on this team? Okay, in a team full of 5-stars. The dude is unreal. And I say that with DeCorian Moore committed to LSU, a 5-star receiver for the next year. I'm telling you right now, this guy is my number one recruit. He is my number one recruit in the class of 2024. I am fine with it. It's going to take a lot for me to change my opinion on that because I've watched a decent amount of everyone. He's got to be my number one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section live right now. Let me know. Now, I want to get to the next topic. I feel the transfer portal has been really good to LSU up to this point. Are we having as good of a transfer portal class as other schools? No. Ole Miss has the best transfer portal class at this point. And no one's coming close to Ole Miss's transfer portal class at this point. Nobody. So what does that mean for us? Well, is Ole Miss just outbidding us for some of these guys? Are we pursuing some of these guys that Ole Miss are going after? I don't know. But the Rebels have really put in some work. They get Juice Wells. They get Princely U. They get what should be pretty soon to be announced, Walter Nolan from the transfer portal. We're talking all SEC 5-star level production. So far, Xavier Thomas is a guy that I like a lot. Obviously, I'm really excited about Jordan Gilbert. But there are other guys out there that we need to be pursuing and getting to help us when we really need it for next season. I understand. I get it. Let me know. Is my microphone going in and out? I'm sorry about that. Type Y for yes. Type in for no if I'm sounding weird. Type Y for yes if you can hear me okay. Okay? Just let me know. I'm free to go micless tonight. I don't care. But yes, Kaden Durham is not that big of a guy. But I also don't think he's just tiny, right? Another back that is on it's kind of sketch. Okay. Let me see. I'll fix it here in a second. Could be internet. Look, I'll go in and go to this. It's not going to sound as good. Let's see.
Try this. This will be a little bit more consistent. Let's see. I had to change my settings on this earlier. All right. Yeah, I know it's going to sound weird now. But hear me out. I do want this to be clear. LSU, for me, and it could just be me, but I truly do believe, okay, LSU should feel pretty good about not only the transfer portal class that they're about to get, okay, they should also keep their eye out for what these other schools are doing, okay? So, yeah, apparently it might not be me. I know I got a Twitter notification that that things are getting kind of weird. It's a little blurry. Okay. So I got a deep it sounds weird. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I don't think it's on mine because I did check it a few times over. It could be. It could be. I got a deep baritone voice. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. All right. I will check this in a moment, but let me get to this next final thing. And I really do think it is important. And it's actually Ellie Mom's next point. I would keep an eye out for a few recruits here before the 2024 class that would get LSU into the top 10. Okay. Terry Bussey is one of them, and Dominic McKinley. Obviously, it was a busy official visit weekend. They had the Cohen Eccles 2024 offensive lineman come in. That would also help boost their recruiting. But the truth here, I want you guys to really think about this, okay? I feel that we aren't in the spot that we need to be. There still is a lot of work to be done, but I'm not one just to sell you on positivity just for the sake of positivity. I do feel that LSU has some good things in the works. I really do think so. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to get into, I touched on the Ole Miss thing, I touched on everything else. This is the first live stream I've talked about Sage Ryan leaving because, of course, he made this announcement on Friday. All right. Now, on Thursday's show, we did reference that there was going to be some players that was going to leave that were actual players that played a lot. Okay. I also think that I would love everybody to come back. I really would. I would have loved everybody to come back that played a lot on LSU's defense. I'm not just saying this just for the sake of it, because anytime someone that's an LSU channel says something aloud where players, when players leave your school, what they'll tell you is, well, you're just saying that because player so-and-so is leaving your school and you're just sour. Okay. I am going to be as honest as I possibly can here. Sage Ryan was not a good football player for LSU last year. And I know a lot of you agree with that. Okay. But it's not just the fact that he wasn't good that bothered me. It's that there were instances where I felt he wasn't playing all that hard. And honestly, if those types of guys are on your team, you're probably better off without him than with him. Okay. That's just the truth. It's not necessarily a case of, well, I think he's bad. No, he did some good things and he did improve. He did have a nice play on 4th down versus Florida to help close that game out. Those things are true, but you never saw him improve on mistakes that he improved on. And there's more to this on the Patreon breakdown. I would check it out if I were you. And then in Discord, I shared a few things behind the scenes that I was hearing. But it is important to know that this guy was not the player that we expected him to be. And I was rooting for him. I was cheering for him each and every week. But if I started seeing some lackadaisical effort, I said what I said at the time during the Ole Miss game in particular. And it's also important to keep this in mind, okay? He was playing a position that he wasn't supposed to be playing. He wasn't ever slated to be an outside corner, right? Well, what happened? Well, Deuce Chestnut was a total bust. Denver Harris was a total bust. And Zion Alexander got hurt. So in theory, Sage Ryan wasn't even corner number 4, right? They would have loved to have seen Terrence Welsh work out. He didn't work out. So he was playing a position he never was supposed to be playing as the number 1 at that position, corner number 1, for pretty much halfway through the season all the way towards the end. Not necessarily halfway from the Alabama game all the way towards the end, but he essentially was a player that we played on every single down. Okay, so let's be honest. I think it was best for both parties for them to move on, even though he played a premium position that we could have desperately needed. And I understand that I understand that there's people that know Sage that watch his channel and so on and so on, but I've got to be truthful when I'm on here with you guys. I think LSU is in a good spot right now. Do they need to go get some transfer portal corners? Yes. Is it probably going to cost some money? Yes. That's what it takes to get the guys that we need to get to play the big positions that need to be played. And quite simply put, at DBU, you can't have a cornerback room be that wildly inconsistent. That's just all there is to it. We go to Jared Super Chat. I really do appreciate you. I'm sorry for the image. Let me know if it gets better for you guys. I do follow up here with Huey. Yes, Sage was not a good tackler. Okay. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, next thing I want to get into. Because I knew this question would come up when I was getting ready to do this show. Bryce Underwood visiting Alabama. Is this something that you should be worried about? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Because while we had a dual threat quarterback win the Heisman Trophy, they have one who will be the Heisman Trophy favorite going into next season. And Alabama has done a better job recruiting the 5-star out-of-state quarterback profile than we have. Obviously, with Bryce Young and now Julian Saban. And, this would be the first kind of 5-star out-of-state QB that we have landed since Russell Shepard, right? So this has never really been the type of recruit that we get. I'm not totally worried about it, though, because the relationships and the effort that LSU put in to recruit the kid, those just don't go by the wayside after one visit to Alabama. Who doesn't want to visit Alabama if you're an out-of-state recruit who sees Nick Saban winning all these Heisman trophies and winning and going to college football playoffs and winning national championships? Every kid wants to visit Alabama. I'm still on Bryce Underwood. I still feel okay about it. But look, he's a 5-star quarterback who any team would take his commitment right now, and all the power is in his hands. January 6th, obviously, is going to be the big day. January 3rd, Harlan Berry confirmed earlier today, will be his recruitment announcement. He was supposed to announce tomorrow. He pushed it back to January 3rd in a tweet that he put out there. But that's for the 2025s. Right? Obviously, those are 2 5-stars that LSU desperately want. We'll see what happens. Okay? So it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, here's the thing. LSU is also in it for some other elite quarterbacks in that cycle, one of which is George McIntyre. George McIntyre also is interested in Alabama. So if Bryce Underwood goes to Alabama, does George McIntyre go to LSU? I don't know. Okay. So there you go. I really do appreciate you, Jared, for the super. And we go to Semper here. And a lot of people, especially from the Lafayette region, would tell you that Say Ryan was always a running back. He had no business playing cornerback. Okay? Welcome, Jerwin Robinson to the channel. We need to get the Marion Richardson to LSU. Yeah, I would love it. Obviously, Louisiana native coming back home. We need any type of corner that has experience. And look, when he went up against the elite receivers, including Malik Neighbors, he struggled. But he has experience. And we right now just need some bodies at the corner position to be a part of our room. Okay? So I'm open, very open. Obviously, LSU is going to be very interested in his services. And if he does come, he has a pretty good chance of starting right away. Okay? So I feel pretty good about that. Now, I don't think this is true, or at least he might have been at the time, early on in the cycle, but I'm not sure if that is the case now, because Bryson was one of the highest ranked corners in the in history. Let's go on here. Has JD announced if he's out for the bowl? Because JD wasn't practicing on first team on Malik's story. Yeah, I don't think James is going to play in the bowl game. I just don't think that's happening. And guess what? It's not the end of the world if that's the case. Could be a benefit for LSU to get Jane Daniels a chance to start. Okay. Now, next thing I want to get into. We could be in a spot Richardson visited LSU this weekend. That he did. Now, I'm going to try to fix this microphone, but coming up after this, is Ole Miss going to be favored against us next year? Let me know.
PHL Nation. Oh, yeah, baby. You know about Louisiana Controls. They've been showing us love throughout this college football season, and I'm looking for you to do the same when it comes to your energy management commercial HVAC needs. It is all with our buddies who have been doing this for over 40 years. Yes, that is 4 decades. You know this Louisiana weather gets crazy. Go to louisianacontrols.com or call 225-924-4990, baby. Let's go.
Big thanks to our friends at Louisiana Controls. And I do want to get into this. We're going to test this in here in just a second. I feel as if I got something caught in my throat. I have no idea what this is. I think a fly just flew into my throat. I really do believe that. That is so wild. I feel like something's caught in my throat. Let me make sure I'm not dying here. But here's what I'll tell you. I think you should be worried about Ole Miss. But first, let's see, what are we going to play here? I want to play these 3. No, I don't want to play that. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is actually good. I think you will see Richardson on these clips right here. I'll be right back.
All right. 4th and goal, and of course LSU would have scored here if it wasn't for the false start. Yeah, I've got to be real here. You know, I prefer quarterback sneaks in this spot. What's very interesting was the false start actually happened by not 1 but 2 players, and I think that's because they are going off the clap. All right, so when Jaden claps right here, they're going. So the ball should potentially already be snapped. But here's the thing. If you're in a quarterback sneak in this spot, you're going off go. So if that's the case, then, well, you don't have to worry about, you know, the guys not firing off on time. So there you go. Still very unfortunate that were to happen. And we blocked this, honestly, pretty fine, and we were able to score. Look at that. So now it's being communicated, and Jaden is changing the protection, and they see that Mississippi State is deciding to bring something, okay? Because it looks like they're playing off, but they saw that the linebackers were leaking in here. And what essentially happens is this is a 0 blitz. It is man coverage across the way, and they're playing off. Okay, it's a really good call. Defenses normally like to blitz in this spot. We won't get into all the reasons why. And this is just really good quarterbacking right here by Jaden. We normally don't want unblocked A-gap pressure, but everybody else other than this player is blocked. And Jaden, look at this throw while getting smashed, throws it right there to make it a manageable 4th down. And you'll see it right here, okay? So Charles is already obviously blocking down. In theory, you would want Josh to block this unblocked safety, but the reason why you let the safety go and you pick him up is because the safety is coming from all the way back here. So Jaden looks left, and he immediately works back to a safety valve. And what have we said? Malik Neighbors in the slot all day, every day. And look at that throw. That's just really, really, really good stuff right there by Jaden Daniels. All right, here we go. Let's see how this sounds. Yeah, I saw it was something with the connection. Let me know if you guys can hear me loud and clear. Type Y for yes, I've been for no. I literally thought I literally thought I was choking. I still feel it. So this might be the end of me, period. Oh, I'm okay. I do. Yeah. So you can hear me good. Okay, perfect. Now, you know, for me, I am I concerned a little bit about Ole Miss? Yes, I am, because they're going to be very good next season. There's no other way around it. I do want to give you one little slimmer of positivity after Ole Miss's big day and their big weekend. Dwayne, thank you so much for the cash up. I really appreciate you. Oh, it's a little choppy now. I don't know what the heck's happening. I really have no idea what the heck, if it's the connection or if it's just me. Let me I will tell you this. LSU, they do get a bye week before they play Ole Miss next weekend. Okay. That is obviously a big plus, huge plus. Okay. They also get Ole Miss on the back end of a back-to-back road game. Okay. And on top of that, they will play 7 consecutive games before they actually play us. So they don't get a bye week. Remember, everybody has a double bye week next season. Everybody. So, for me, I look at that as a huge positive. Ole Miss got to play all these games in a row. LSU, they get that early bye week. And I keep going back to this. USC just had a player enter the portal who they expected to be their starting quarterback next year, Malachi Nelson. Okay. So, look, UCLA's got to return, get a new QB. USC's got to get a new QB. LSU's schedule is shaping up somewhat nicely. Now, the big question is going to be, does LSU go get another quarterback? That's obviously one thing that a lot of us want to know. Now, the next thing, and I feel this is very important from my vantage point. All right. I truly do think you will see LSU next year be a lot more run focused. I do think they're going to try and run the football a lot more next season. They're also going to need Garrett Nussmeier to be a little bit more willing as a runner himself, right? I do think he will do that. I also think, for me, LSU is in a spot where they still need to figure out who their number one receiver is going to be. Is it Xavier Thomas? You'll see tomorrow night on the film study. We do have a film study tomorrow at 6 p.m. Okay. I also think LSU is in a spot where you think Shelton Sampson steps up. I think he's going to play a lot in the bowl game. I really do believe so. I think you're going to see LSU try some new receivers out. Even if Malik and BTJ play a lot, it could be one of those things where Malik gets the yards that he needs to get. Or is this a situation where he plays a whole game? I doubt he plays a whole game. I really do. I think LSU is going to blow Wisconsin out. I really do think so. So we'll see what happens. Now, on top of that, there are some players in the 2024 class that grew on me. All right. And I'm going to include this at the very beginning, but I want to make sure all you guys are in here. We're 193 of you. I really do appreciate it. Tyler Singleton has grown on me, right? He was a guy that I really liked a lot athletically. I understand it's kind of a strange situation with where exactly is his best position, but that is a guy who I really enjoy watching play football. I really do think so. I feel as if he is a guy that will play a lot, at least on special teams next year. All right. So another guy who has grown on me is Kari Lee. He continues to grow on me, the offensive line 3-star who's committed. I'm not sure if it's going to happen year one for him. It probably won't. But I do think that's a guy you need to keep an eye out for going into next year, okay? Or the next year. Number one wide receiver will be someone who didn't touch the field this year, says Simper. very interesting. The number one wide receiver. I would not be shocked if that's the case. All right. Um, what if it is Avion Thomas? It could be. But right now, I would say Kyron Lacy is my pick for that. But is he a true alpha? Is he someone that you can truly respect on the outside as a guy who's going to beat whoever's in front of him on every single snap, on every single down, in any certain type of situation? That's what I normally think of when it comes to being an alpha wide receiver. It could be Chris Hilton. It could be Aaron Anderson. Maybe their rough seasons this year are something that we're just totally out on, right? Or is this some two players that come back and play way better than we ever expected them to? Could it be? Jared says Landon Ibieta. There we go. I'm just going to bail on this microphone. I would guess this one would be far more consistent.
Right here. So I'm just going to go to this. Cliff is still believing in Chris Hilton. He believes it. You're not going to knock him off that opinion. You're just not. So Cliff's going with Chris Hilton. That's fine with me. Yeah, I'm thinking it is a bandwidth issue. I don't think it's anything I'm doing. Could be. We've had some weird weather today. Let's see. We really need Aaron Anderson to be half what Malik was in the slot next year. Yeah, that's the thing about it. Stefan and Chris says Mike was better before I switched. I don't know. I'm just going to go with this. I think for me, you don't really need anybody to be that guy, right? For this reason, there's so many different players on LSU's team that could end up being the person, right? So I don't think it's a situation where LSU needs Aaron Anderson to be it or Chris Hilton needs to be the guy. I think there are so many guys that can be that person that it could be anyone, right? I was a little shocked that Aaron Anderson wasn't better than what he was, but I also wasn't in the same, realm of everyone else thinking that he was a 5-star coming in. He wasn't that for me. Honestly, it was Xavier Thomas. I thought Xavier Thomas was the best skill guy in Louisiana. I really do think so. Let's go to Chance and then Kyle Parker. Yeah. Let's go to Pat. I love the background here. Any knowledge on what Garrett's going to have class-wise next year? Sure seems like the QB sure take a step forward when the class load is light. Yeah, Pat, that's always an interesting thing, right? I honestly think it has more to do with them getting older, but you don't really need to take that many classes when you are older because a lot of quarterbacks enroll early, so they get a head start on classwork anyway. So yeah, that's one thing that obviously helped out a lot of QBs, and you're just getting older, right? Quarterback is a very mental position, and you honestly just have to not necessarily play the hits per se, but it's also one of those things where the hit has been older quarterbacks have been more successful than younger quarterbacks at LSU, right? That's not the case everywhere. There are young quarterbacks that succeed quickly, but those are few and far between. The name of the game now is get someone that is entering year 4, year 5 of their careers, year 6 if you're lucky, like Washington, and let that player decide the season for you, right? The more experienced quarterback, the better. We've seen experience have high correlation to success at the collegiate level. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, they were both second team guys. So there was a lot of that, but, also a lot of that was just on air, right? And when you're going up against air, a lot of people look good. Chris Hilton looks great versus air. He plucks the ball with his hands. He also runs good routes. You also don't get injured when you're playing against air. So there you go. President Tate, welcome. What's my favorite football recruiting website? I look at all of them, but the main two I look at are On3 and 247. I do occasionally check in on Rivals. I'm always down to look at every site or anybody's evaluation, right? Obviously, you guys know I'm affiliated with AYS. I look at, we talk privately quite a bit, but I take his opinion. I listen to anyone. Obviously, I'm good friends with Preston at Tiger Bait. I think it's important to listen to all evaluations. I am of the belief, though, that I don't necessarily have favorites. I just want whoever's best for LSU. Okay, so for me, there are some sites that have some really radical grades on some players, and there are other sites who, tend to stick to the norm, right? And I think that's far. And I kind of like radical grades. I kind of like the sites that take strong stances on players. One of those sites is On3. On3 takes some strong stances on players. I like that. I really, really, really do. So, for example, Weston Davis is one of those kinds of guys, right? On3 has him as a top 20 player in the country, a clear-cut 5-star player. All the other services outside of Rivals has him outside the top 25 at his own position. Rivals has him as a top 104 star. So, it goes to show you that some sites take strong stances, and I like that. I try my best to take strong stances on players. Okay, so there you go. Now, as Blaine points out, Wednesday is the early signing period. It's going to be an interesting week in recruiting. Absolutely. I am of the belief that if you are an LSU fan, Wednesday is going to be a good day for you. It's going to be a good day. All right. Pegasus says, after watching Kansas City this year, I actually do think you need a guy wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, you kind of saw it at the end of the season with Alabama, right? Like early in the year, there wasn't really someone, or even last year with Bryce Young, there really wasn't anybody on that wide receiver core that makes you say, well, I believe in this guy. But eventually Isaiah Bond became that person. And that's what matters. Okay. Because the dude is incredible. He is just an incredible football player, Isaiah Bond. So eventually it takes a while for some of those players to come into their own, right? So it's wild. It's wild to think about. Blaine says, what is my opinion on Lance Hurd? I think he was just fine this year. Right, he started and looked fine. I think next year he will be a starter. It should be interesting how they're going to go about that, though. Do they really want to move Emory Jones to the inside, knowing he's had 2 pretty good seasons at right tackle at LSU? I think that's what they're going to do, though. I think Emory Jones will become right guard and sort of become the starting right tackle. But it's not as easy of a decision as people make it out to be. We say hi to Timmy Herc. So there you go. Cliff says they should change the rule for all recruits. If you publicly announce a commitment, then you should not be able to take visits to other schools unless you decommit. And that's just not going to work. I think that's one of the good rules that they have. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're giving out quite a few BTJ cards. We gave one out. Actually, we tried to put one out on Thursday night, but BTJ's been a pretty big player for us. So if we do get a $20 super chat, I'll send this to whoever makes that first one. And if we get a hundo tonight, we will send out a Malik Neighbors rookie card here. So there you go. We are 85 away from that goal. Side of Sibs, what's up, man? Shelton Simpson, you like the height that he brings? 6'4", he's a big target. I just think for him, the Grambling game, it's just going to be so important to get him some snaps, some reps, because, I truly do believe he's a very good football player. That is a guy that I really liked a lot. So the way I had the wide receivers graded, going into this year out of high school was Shelton Sampson was number one, Kyle Parker was number two, and then Jalen Brown and Kai Prean were about the same as the number three receiver coming into this crop, right? But Shelton moved pretty clear and away my favorite receiver of the four that they brought in from this last recruiting class. So I still stand by it. That's still how I would have them up to this point, even though Shelton hardly played and was used. Okay. So, Jared, thank you so much for the super chat. He wants to give it away to someone. So, here we go. We're going to give away this BTJ card here in just a second. Let's go to Danny Girl. This is a good question. Do you find it odd that it's so quiet at LSU right now? Not hearing about declarations for those eligible or decisions on those staying. No announcements coming out. Okay. This is a very interesting topic. It is true. Up to this point, LSU has been the quietest school when it comes to the portal. Whether it's players that are entering or whether it's players that may not enter. Maybe it's players entering the NFL draft. Maybe it's players who are deciding whether or not they want to play in the bowl game. There's a lot of that. I do want to bring up one thing about that, though, that makes this a little bit different for LSU. But first, I want you guys to check this out. I have marked everything down in the powerhourlsu.com/store. Yes. See this hoodie I'm wearing right now? The weather is chilly. Order the Power Hour LSU hoodie tonight, baby. Look at that thing, baby. You can get it in black, get it in gray. Got it in black right here because black don't crack. Check it out. powerhourlsu.com/shop. Okay? Now, I think part of it is it's hard to leave LSU. LSU's got a lot of Louisiana guys on the team. And, a lot of players on LSU have a strong tie to the university, right? It's where they want things to work out. You notice how many Louisiana guys stay on the team when they don't have any path forward to playing time. To the point where there are players on LSU's team that are third string, fourth string, not even getting special teams reps, that still stay at LSU to try and make it work out. We see it each and every season, right? Now, how much more do they have than other schools? I don't know, but it seems like they have more of it. There are plenty of guys that just float right into my mind right now that I know would be starter level players elsewhere, but they stay to try and make it work at LSU. There's some of that. LSU also just hasn't had a whole lot of starters into the transfer portal. It's a little weird that there are more good players who have entered the portal at other schools than LSU has had players into the portal at their school. I also think a lot of defensive players are really perplexed at what's going to happen with the defensive coaching staff. What's happening? Is anything going to happen? Is everyone going to remain in their position? Because a lot of coaches like to stay at their current schools, and a lot of players like to stay with their current coaches, right? With their assistants, they grow to know them, they grow to love them. The assistant coach is so important. We saw today Florida is struggling to find a new defensive line coach. They lost some visits for the weekend because of that. So there is a lot of flux and change that is yet to happen with LSU just yet. And makes you wonder if there's going to be any change at all. So it is what it is at this point. Could it be that LSU keeps everyone on both staffs? Obviously, they want to keep everybody on the offensive staff. They want to keep everybody on the defensive staff. The special team staff has been a collaborative effort. It could be. It could be the case. But it is a good question, Dave. Why does that happen? And overall, LSU just hasn't had at all, really, during the portal era, a whole lot of really good players hit the portal. Like Walter Nolan is a really good player. Juice Wells is a really good player. Princely is a really good player. All three of them were at schools that annually out-recruit Ole Miss, and they still went from one SEC school as starters where they got good NIL, and they still went to Ole Miss. Okay? It's hard to know. But why is it LSU just doesn't have as many of those players? I don't know, but it's a good thing, right? It's a really, really, really good thing. Jeff says Malachi Nelson looks a lot like Jaden. Oh, well, yeah. Dwayne Super Chat from earlier, I appreciate it. He wants to chat some Chris Hilton. Let's do it. Okay. I really do like Chris Hilton as a Tiger, right? I don't think anybody wants to see one player succeed more than we want to see Chris Hilton succeed, right? With that said, the injuries have always been an issue. The drops became an issue this year. And, he doesn't break a lot of tackles, right? A lot of his touchdowns have come against not so great competition. And, a lot of his touchdowns have been where he's just wide open, right? Could Chris Hilton be that guy next year? I hope so. He's entering year 4 as a top 100 recruit. So, yeah, we'll see. College football is like Father's Day in Texas. Mass confusion. I don't know what that meant, but it made me chuckle. So there you go. It is a good question. Now, I want to get to something else. Kim Mulkey getting thrown out of the game today. How about that? LSU women's basketball, though they continue to roll. The Kim Mulkey getting thrown out obviously is a nothing burger. She's standing up for her players. One could say that it's actually a good thing to get that out before it's big games coming up, and it lets the team know in a blowout. Who cares to get thrown out in the blowout? You're not gonna get suspended for it. It's no big deal. I think the players like that. It's a good message. Angel Reese was the one that was calming down. So I truly do believe it. Roger, I don't know what it is. Like I've already the weird thing about it is like I cut a full film study on this computer. Okay. Edited it, it's ready to go for tomorrow night. And I use all this same equipment, and then StreamYard's not cooperating. So I'm sorry if I sound poor tonight. Maybe it will get fixed with the internet. I feel LSU will have 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs transfer soon. Yep, they've already had 2 running backs transfer. So I'm not sure if any of the other running backs will go. Now, here's something else that I believe will happen. I am of the belief that Logan Diggs will not be back next year for LSU. Okay. I believe Logan Diggs will go to the NFL. I have a lot of reasons as to why that is the case. Was he spectacular this year for LSU? I won't go so far to say spectacular. He was very, very, very good though. He hit the hole hard. He got the yard that we needed to get in the run game. Obviously, the Auburn game was really good. The Ole Miss game was very good. He was very hurt this year, right? So that could be one of two things. You could look at it and say, well, you know what? I want to go to the NFL and see what I could do before I have another big injury. All right. Or I want to come back to LSU, run behind this very good offensive line, and improve my draft stock. Logan Diggs can come back if he wants to. I would love for him to come back at this point. I do think he is NFL bound. I really do believe it. Okay. Do I think Logan Diggs will be a good NFL back? I think he could be a really, really, really good NFL back. Very consistent player. Doesn't have the home run hitting speed. He's very good in pass protection. He's very good out of the backfield. He's very good at getting tough yards when you need it. I think he's going to be a very solid pro. But at this point, I would think he is leaning toward going to the NFL. I do. I know that's one that a lot of you have been waiting on. That's why I think it's going to happen. I think a lot of us feel BTJ and Malik Neighbors are going to go to the NFL as well at this point. Now, defensively is something that I've gotten a lot of questions about. What's going to happen to our defense in terms of potential portal, in terms of potential players that could be back, players that could go to the NFL. Mason Smith had a case to go to the NFL just based on, preseason mocks and potential and all of that. But I think at this point, he would be better off coming back. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Major Burns is another player that has a decision to make. Does he feel them going into the portal and getting a really good safety in Jordan Gilbert? Had a tough year this year. Shoulder injury kept him out. Only 2 games played this year. Maybe so. Maybe he has some thoughts about going somewhere else. But I am down to bring Major Burns back. I really am. Now, let's go to Roger Dodger. Have I talked about Grambling's new head coach yet? Very interesting. Pierre reported earlier today that the new head coach is Mickey Joseph. Okay. Now, has Grambling announced it yet? Obviously I don't cover Grambling all close. Shout out to Grambling, but it does look like everything has been, finalized there. So, yeah, former LSU coach going to get a chance to be head coach for the first time in his career, or at least the first time in a while. Mickey Joseph was obviously at LSU, was very successful there. Went to Nebraska, the interim coach. Then he had an off-the-field incident that I won't discuss because I haven't really read all the details to that in quite some time. But yeah, Mickey Joseph, LSU legend. I don't think this really affects LSU in any shape, form, or fashion because LSU just doesn't recruit the same players as Grambling does. But very interesting fit, all right? Does being in on Chase Pasantis have anything to do with Delaire Frazier? No, because you should go get a Chase Pasantis every time you have a chance to go get someone of that caliber, an offensive lineman who has experience. Okay? So, there you go. Coach Adam, is there a chance we're going back to the 3-4 defense? I'm surprised by the lack of effort towards DL needs. Okay. It's a complicated question. All right. And when I'm on live streams, I try my best to answer the film-ish kind of question. So I'm not a DC coach or coordinator, but I do film studies obviously a lot on Sunday nights One game will have one air tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central, okay? Do I think we'll get back to running a 3-4? Well, we ran a 3-4 this year. We ran a 3-4 with a lot of 4-3 principles, okay? I don't think the 3-4 or 4-3 discussion is as important as doing consistent responsibilities on a down basis that down defenses normally do. Okay. So, for instance, how many times during film studies this year did you hear me say we're in the same gap? We have two people doing the same thing. Happen way too often. How many times did we say, oh, that basic tackle was missed? Or this lacked just a baseline level of football pedigree IQ, right? So the 3-4-4-3 discussion is a lot more complex than saying if we're going to run 3-4 or 4-3. Because, for instance, like Nick Saban in the SEC championship game, they were going to run a lot of like traditional 3-man principles, and then he switched things up. Went from more single high to more 2 high looks. Obviously, that's a very simplified definition of what he did. The key is being multiple to where you can play both. Okay. So hopefully that makes some sense. But what I would say before we get to Simper's next question here, and Adam, welcome to the channel, by the way. We do need to get some portal defensive linemen. I truly do think so, right? There were a lot of defensive linemen that we had this year that just quite simply put didn't play at a high enough level for us to succeed. Some of that is on them. A lot of it is on the coaching. And I would say a lot of it because our defensive line coach obviously had the injury, the very serious health scare that he had. What's going to happen with that? I don't know. You tell me, right? I really don't know what they're trying to do with the Jimmy Lindsay situation at this point. Okay. Let's go to Super Chat. I bought you a book. Oh, but I'm trying to get Coach to sign it before I send it to you. I guess I just don't know which coach it is. Don't spoil it to keep it a surprise. Also, who will replace House? And I don't want to hear that he's staying. Penn State hired a head coach to be their DC today by the name of Tom Allen. Okay, he's the head coach at Indiana, and Indiana had really good defenses while I was there. Okay, and he is going to replace Manny Diaz, who took the head coach at Duke. All right. I don't know. If Brian Kelly should not pleased with the defensive coordinators he may or may not be pursuing at this point. But I think there is a growing chance that Matt House will remain the defensive coordinator at LSU. Could be. I will also say this. Here's one thing I'll say about the Brian Kelly Matt House decision. All right. I hope it's not a case where LSU is in a position where they have to keep Matt House just for the sake of the calendar. Right? The truth is, LSU is a destination job. This is not a matter of me being a fan. This is a matter of me telling you the truth. There are so many defensive coordinators that would pack their bags up right now to come be the DC at LSU. So many. The list goes on and on and on. One thing I don't want LSU to do is say, well, we're this far to signing day. Signing day might happen. Well, we might as well keep Matt House because we got all these signatures. Now, while that's a tough thing to do to the great defensive recruits that you have signed, to then go fire a DC when they just got their signatures, which is in theory blindsiding them, you should still do it, because no single recruit is as important as a person calling the plays. Okay, it's just the truth. So I think LSU, even if they want to delay it, maybe there's a defensive coach that they want to go get that's coaching in the playoffs or still coaching in the NFL. Maybe that is the case. I don't give a rip. Even if you have to sign them this summer, I think they need to make a change. I do. Now, this is always a thing that happens when a five-star recruit enters the portal. We need to go after him because he was a five-star recruit. Marvin Jones Jr. would be one of those guys, right? I'm very interested in Marvin Jones Jr. I think he can play. We've seen five stars who are in a logjam position transfer somewhere else and still be good and go get drafted. Obviously, a recent example of that was Luke Sanders at Arkansas, right? Really good defensive end type of player. He was just behind Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. So I said Luke Sanders. Drew Sanders. Luke Sanders was a really good linebacker at LSU. Drew Sanders transfers to Arkansas as a really good player. So, yeah, Marvin Jones Jr. would be very nice. Here's another one. Money Printer Never Stops. Welcome to the channel. Malachi Nelson, my thoughts on him. Sure. If he wants to come join a very competitive ring, he is a five-star QB. I will say this about Malachi Nelson. And once again, this is not him just entering the portal just for the sake of it. He was a can't-miss five-star recruit, not only by the recruiting services, but dynasty fantasy communities and so on and so on and so on. I truly do think he was overvalued. I don't think he was a five-star recruit. That's not where I would have had him on my radar, right? The way I had the recruits ranked is I had Nico, number one, the five stars at Tennessee. UCLA's Dante Moore, number two. He is currently in the portal. And then I don't remember who I ended up with number three. I do remember I liked the South Carolina kid, Lenore Sellers, a lot. And South Carolina went and got A.J. Swan. So just for reference, LSU did host a visit from A.J. Swan, a transfer quarterback from Vanderbilt. And he went to South Carolina. I wasn't a big Swan guy. Okay? So the truth here is I'm open to Malachi Nelson, though. I do think he's a really good quarterback prospect. I just didn't see the same five-star can't-miss kind of guy. I think a top 100 rating would have been good, but, man, so many – I think it was a five-star composite on 3 and 247. Okay? I'll keep my mouth shut on this tonight. Bo Davis and Corey Raymond. Those would be two of the most popular hires that Brian Kelly will ever make. It's not a matter of whether you think those guys are good. Because obviously Bo Davis was really good this year at Texas. His defensive line was arguably the best in college football this season. And Corey Raymond wasn't that good this year. His position group wasn't good for Florida. The defense at Florida wasn't good yet again. It's not a debate of whether or not those guys are good coaches, right? That's a debate that will get answered, obviously, in the fall. What I would tell you, though, is the boosters who have been contributing to LSU football for the longest, they view Bo Davis and Corey Raymond as their guys. They played at the university. They have a lot of ties at the university. They know the state of Louisiana. They know the LSU standard, if you will. So there's a lot of people that want to see something like that happen. Okay? It's very interesting. Mick says he can look at the film of a kid and almost instantly tell me if they're overrated or not. Well, is there anyone in LSU's class you feel that way about? If you can instantly tell me. Will Norman's very interesting, the young man at Florida from New Jersey who didn't work out. I could see him moving closer to home if anything else. Now, next thing. All right. Like I said, we can get after topic after topic after topic. I do want to include a few players on LSU's team. And I want you to give me your honest opinion on them because I think they're in this middle ground, right? Where they start, they play a lot, but are they someone you really want back? Are they good? They're obviously not someone who's special enough that they would get huge portal offers. They're obviously someone that's not good enough to make that next step to the NFL. Because if they could, they would, right? So you tell me in the chat right now, whether you're watching this on Twitter or X, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, tell me this. Do you believe Savion Jones is someone you want to be a starting defensive lineman for you next season? Give me your honest thoughts on Savion Jones in the chat right now. Okay? Give it to me straight. I want you to be as honest as you possibly can. Don't forget, if we get to a hundo and supers, you're giving out a Malik Neighbors rookie card tonight. Okay? You can do a simple Y for yes if that's somebody you want back, in for no if that's somebody you think is good. We'll do Savion Jones right now. Savion private line. Zipper says yes with the right coach. Okay. So why do you think he needs to drop weight? I'm curious. Chef says pure rotational piece. Okay. So you think he could? I'll tell you this. There were some warning flags for me on him going into this season. Once again, defensive line is my favorite position. It's my favorite position to watch. I do think it's a square peg in a round hole. I think that the role that they ask of him is a very weird, difficult role that's not quite fit of his type of play, right? Let me ask you this. If you were to pick one or the other, type S for Savion Jones, type P for Parashine. Let me know in the chat right now. Type yes for Savion Jones, type P for Parashine. Okay? I'm going to grab this right over here. Jared said he's out on both of them. So a lot of you think Parashine's better. So why didn't he start? Man, it's simple. Why didn't he start? A lot of you think Parashine. They play Uh, they play the same position. Okay, it's weird. I think they were both similarly effective. Um, let's go to the other side of the football. How many of you still believe in Aaron Anderson? And that was another player I wanted to ask you about the 1 hour mark. Okay. How many of you still believe in Aaron Anderson? Do you still believe? I'm always down to getting new opinions on new players. Okay. Don't forget Cohen Eccles, an offensive lineman. Recruiting has picked up for him. Yeah, chance. Yeah, it's strange. Here was the one thing I would say about Aaron Anderson. Okay, and this was one of the most interesting things last season. Okay, one thing that was very strange from an LSU perspective was how weird this season played out after the Florida State game. Okay, when you watched LSU play the Florida State game, you could clearly see that the offense was better. You could see that the offense was an offense that can move the football, right? Obviously, the Kyron Lacy drop was huge, and so on and so on and so on. But we never would have guessed that the offense would end up being statistically one of the best offenses in the history of college football. Something else that was very interesting was that game ended up being drastically different than how the season would play out, right? Like, for instance, going into the game, we were told Aaron Anderson was the punt returner, right? Aaron Anderson's a guy, he's a punt returner. But first punt return of the game, it was Clayton. And then we put Aaron Anderson out there. Imagine the confidence when you're the punt returner. That's why they brought you in. And you come in for a punt return, you fumble it, and he never really got his opportunity again. And then he was pretty much hurt. And this season, he had some good moments. He had some really good catches. He had a nice first down conversion versus Arkansas. But did you ever really say when you watch Aaron Anderson play, that was special? That was truly incredible. Those were few and far between moments, right? So does he need a full season to get fully healthy? It was really banged up this year. So I say that because there are so many players on this LSU's team, whether they are transfers or are not transfers, that are kind of in this middle ground where if they were to enter the portal, they would probably find somewhere else to go. It's not as if their market would be unfreaking believably hot, right? They're not going to get, a ton of money to go play at some other school. It would probably be at best a lateral move. I mean, any college from LSU across the way is going to be more often than not lateral. And I'm not sure if anyone's dropping back to go get them. Okay. So there you go. We go to Sibley. Okay. I think that college football is becoming more like all-star games, and players will become much more important than coaches. Coaches cannot uniquely develop players. New model. Yeah, it's really, I can argue the opposite, right? I could argue that the coaches could become even more important. It's always the players over the coaches, right? But players go to schools because they believe in a coach's message. I will tell you this, all right? I think LSU make the right decision to hire Brian Kelly. Okay. But the two top coaches that I felt were reasonable, attainable targets that I wanted to go after was Lincoln Riley and Lane Kiffin. Those are my two top candidates. I don't know what Lane Kiffin does in recruiting. I don't know if it's the silly tweets. I don't know. But there are so many players that have gone from really good situations to Lane Kiffin. It is ridiculous. Now, the year before it was Spencer Sanders. Spencer Sanders went from starter at Oklahoma State to backup at Ole Miss. Now he's got 3 all SEC caliber players making that same decision, going from where they were to where they are now. So I could make a case that the coaches are as important now more than ever. And honestly, Sibley, as you know better than anyone else, being that you know how major college athletics works, you obviously know the money talks. That's the money talks reference. That right there. Huh? 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 Okay. Now, do I think a new model is in order? Yes. Yes. I think at this point, John, there are enough high profile coaches who will say enough is enough. And we will be looking at some kind of new model. The name, image, and likeness name is ironically a false image of what name, image, and likeness is. And ironically, not a whole lot of people like it. Name, image, and likeness is a salary. Now, there are some businesses that, in the spirit of the rule, do the name, image, and likeness. And yeah, obviously Gordon, Keynes, so on and so on and so on. They actually do real name, image, and likeness stuff. Now, with that said, as far as name, image, and likeness is concerned, I think we're going to get to a point where it's just a salary. You come to this school, you get a salary. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. How much till a hundo? And congrats, Sibley, you have earned a BTJ card. We are 55 away from a hundo. Okay. Punt return needs to be a walk-on with 0 Fs to give. I will tell you this: you want Xavier Thomas to be the punt and kick returner. Okay, you do. We'll go to Larry here. Why did LSU schedule USC and UCLA in the same year? Why? Why would they do such a thing? Will you tell me? Why would they do such a thing? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to schedule 2 Power 5 out of conference teams when the name of the game is to avoid losing, right? That is the most important thing. You want to avoid losing more than you want to win. All right. And that gives you one more loss potentially on the schedule. Okay. So, for me, I like the idea of playing UCLA. I like the fact that, we get them at home this year. But it is one extra non-Power 5 game where Brian Kelly has proven time in and time out that those games have been the games that he absolutely positively dominates. Now, he wins other games, but still. Let's see. If we do get to 100, we'll give out a Elite Neighbors card. So Sibley, I just won him a BTJ, so congrats. Kevin says Aaron Anderson's speed didn't jump out to him. Here's my thing about targets. Okay. Targets are earned. And it was hard to earn targets when BTJ and Elite Neighbors were on the team. All right. But if you're good enough, you're more than likely going to get targets. Okay. Some targets. More than what Aaron Anderson actually got this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Billy says, Bama brought in a Michigan coach. Do you think it was to bring in Underwood there? Maybe it is. Maybe that was the intent. I do think also it's to give you a little bit of a heads up on what's going to potentially happen in the playoff game. That's what I honestly think the intent of that actually is. Okay? Now, I do want to bring this up really quickly. All right. And I want that. I know I've gone on this ad nauseum because we do have a bunch of bowl games coming up, and we will have a video out, tomorrow night. But I do want to get back to what Brian Kelly here said about the playoff. I want to get into just a miniature playoff discussion here, but I do want you to hear his thoughts on Alabama getting in over Florida State and why I think this is relevant for LSU football right now.
Off a couple of times. This year, the committee did this decision based on criteria. What do you think of it?
Well, it was probably the most difficult one that they were confronted with. But look, we knew that there were 5 conferences from the very beginning. There's only 4 spots. So if you did the math, you just needed to look at the 5 conference champions and say there's 4 slots. And look, we played Florida State and we played Alabama, 2 outstanding football teams. But the 2 football teams were different at the end of the season than they were at the start of the season. So I think that from my perspective, unfortunately, Florida State was not the same team earlier in the year than they were later in the year because of the injury to the quarterback. And look, you can take that for whatever you want, but if only 4 of the conference championship teams can go and there are 5, you're splitting hairs because they're all great teams, but only 4 can go and there's 5 conference champions. And I think the committee had to figure out if you're going to sit one of them out, maybe it's got to be the one that lost their quarterback. Again, I don't know. I certainly didn't sit in there, but I can see where they came from with the decision that they made.
And that was, I'm going to try this microphone one final time. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. It could just be the internet. I saw StreamYard change some things up beforehand. I say all of that. I wanted to make sure I got to that clip because Brian Kelly does do a good job of thinking ahead. All right. And part of why I'm checking this right now is because I want to see if it is just me or if I need to get with the streaming software. Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Type Y for yes, type in for no, because I did want to get into this. Brian Kelly is really good at receiving a message and directing a message and understanding what someone may be saying about your team. Okay? Brian Kelly will take that as, I need to go get a backup quarterback. Of course, we have that SEC brand. We do. So would LSU and Florida State spot been shafted if the shoe was on the other foot, for instance? Maybe they would have, maybe they wouldn't have. I don't know. But what I can tell you is they can apply that to any team, right? They can look at any team and say, look, we don't like your backup quarterback situation. So I really do think Brian Kelly saw what happened, and he does a really good job of addressing what happened. I cannot state this enough. Two things are true. Florida State did get true, but you also have to take that into consideration with your own team. The backup quarterback is the second most important player on your team. No better example than Florida State. And I don't want to get into another Florida State debate, but I wanted to make sure I said that because it's important to point that out when it comes to the playoff and when it comes to the portal and so on and so on and so on. Okay? But yes, it's not a matter of if I wanted to play Florida State over Alabama or Michigan or anyone like that. I actually still have Michigan winning it. I do. Ironically, it feels, especially in SEC media circles, that I'm in the minority on that. It's not necessarily that I think Michigan is all that impressive, but I think Michigan's going to win it all. I really, really, really do. But my opinion on that is not why you're here. My job is to tell you, in the world of college football, how does LSU adjust to what's happened? I think LSU is definitely going to get a portal quarterback. I do believe it. I truly do believe it. And this is true. This is true. Okay, what's up, Roe? We can see you. So there we go. Damon Daniels, welcome. Let's see here. Some of you want to chat Malachi Nelson. I'm down to do that. So let's do it. Okay. I don't even know if he had any ties to LSU in recruiting. I really don't. I don't know if he even had an official visit to LSU. I wouldn't remember. I don't know. I do think he would be a great ad for this room. I do. But he probably wants to go somewhere where he can play. That's one portal decision that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It just doesn't. Is it just one of those things where he just wants his name to be in the portal, just for his name to be in the portal, just for the rush, the clout? That's a good thing about going in the portal. Any player that enters his name in the portal that has any kind of recruiting pedigree, it is a huge story. Huge. Okay? Let me see here. Maybe Walker comes back. I wouldn't close the door on that. I just wouldn't. But I doubt he comes back. I do know for sure, though, he will be a backup at best next year. All right. And I had, a tweet this weekend, and some of you took it as me taking a shot at Walker Howard, but it's just a message for anyone. If you are going to transfer to another school, go to another school that you are going to play. Okay? Go somewhere else where playing time for your ability is close to guaranteed. Okay? Because that production is more important than anything else. Okay? It is more important. Don't stay put. Okay? Do not stay put if you don't see playing time in the near future if you're in year 3. Okay? But also, if you are going somewhere else, go where you can play. Go where you know playing time is available. You know it. Don't just go somewhere just for the sake of it. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to get playing time anywhere. All right. Sibley, Bama will beat him by 2 touchdowns. Ryan wants to know, why did Harlan Berry push his commitment date back? I don't know. He just said today. He was supposed to commit tomorrow. He said, I'm pushing it back. That's a good thing about high school recruiting, is you can decide your commitment date whenever you want to. Whenever you want. You could say, hey, that's where I want to go. But I don't want to announce it today. Commitment dates seem to get pushed back or moved around more than them sticking with their initial date, right? Kaden Durham changed his date. The ultimate decision is, are you picking LSU or not? Okay? When you move a commitment date to early January, it's more than likely you are doing it in conjunction with an all-star game or a camp or something along those lines. That's what that normally signifies. So yeah, Harlan Berry, 5-star, can't miss Louisiana running back prospect. Once again, I like the other 2 backs in the state as well, Simon and Ford, a lot. Okay. That's true, Jared. But you kind of can, right? What I would do if I was a quarterback, and this is the same thing in any position. The drop-off from going, and I won't use LSU, for instance. Let me just use like a different school. Let's say the Florida Gators, right? Another really good school with a great fan base, with, good nighttime atmosphere. And the reason why I'm using this example is because I personally hate Florida. Now, it's a school in the SEC that really gets under my skin more than any other. Okay. If I were Florida, or if I were playing at Florida, and I wasn't playing a lot there, okay, or if I wasn't playing a lot at Nebraska or any other school, why would I want to go somewhere else where that room is also loaded, right? There's a reason why you didn't play at that school. It's because, well, you probably weren't good enough to play at that school. That's 95% of the time the reason. Now, of course, we mentioned Drew Sanders earlier. That is a rare case where you were a backup, but you were behind Dallas Turner and Will Anderson, and he ended up being a really good player at Arkansas. But one from Alabama to Arkansas, at least it was a step down, right? He went to another SEC school, but he had some good tape. If you don't have a whole lot of tape, or if you have no tape at all, why are you going from one school to the other if you are not for sure going to play? It's tough. It's a tough call. Let's go to Black Goatee. Hey guys, the reason for putting your name in the portal is when you do, On3 pits an NIL value to your name. Then you can shop yourself around. Okay. Really, really, really good point. So On3 has done this like NIL valuation marketplace kind of thing. I don't fully get it. I don't fully understand it. I don't know why they do it. Okay. Kind of a interesting tabulation. If you go look at the valuations, these valuations are ridiculous for a lot of these players. I mean, it is high, right? So, for instance, I'll put this up on the screen, okay? And you could see this to the right of their name. Now, these are the high school recruits, so not necessarily the portal guys. But you'll see to the right, Trade As Green has an NIL valuation of $179K. Okay, Deshaun McBride, $123K. Weston Davis, $114K. Kaden Durham, $120, $109, $84, $78, $70, $73, $73, $68. There isn't one for Ethan Callaway, $63, $63. So on and so on and so on. I don't know how that's tabulated. I'm not the best with money. Okay. I'm not some master investor or anything like that. I am learning. But I don't know if they're accurate. I don't know if they're accurate. All right. What I will tell you though, Black OT, is I guarantee you that a lot of the valuations you are seeing, the players are not getting that amount. That is just a valuation. That is just a tabulation based on social media and all this stuff. But the thing about putting your name in the portal, especially if you're a player that's good, is that there is no downside to it, right? Like, for instance, Juice Wells, who put his name into the portal, the Ole Miss wide receiver that they got today. Okay. What if he was good enough to go to the NFL? He is good enough to go to the NFL, but he barely played this last year. Okay. He is a guy that could be a big-time player for any offense. He'd be a big-time player for ours. He also got good NIL money at Ole Miss. He had good NIL money in South Carolina. The truth, though, with Juice Wells is South Carolina would have taken him back in a heartbeat because he's a really good football player. And he pissed off their entire fan base. Pissed them off. Okay, and Ole Miss plays South Carolina next year, and I can't wait to see it. All right. But guys like him, guys like Walter Nolan, go to the highest bidder. See what's out there. Okay. Now, I understand that it turns a lot of you off. It really, really, really does. I get it. But I'm also of the belief that if I were the one out there, it would make no sense for me to not see what I could get out there. John Silva says On3. He said John 3. It kind of sounds cool. On theory is the worst thing that could happen. Evaluation of no comparisons to the pros. Bad stuff like that will be exposed. Let's go to Jason. Worst thing that you can do is be benched. Yeah. And that's the case, man. There are so many talented players that are rotting on the bench, and we don't know if they can play or not. We don't. It's nearly impossible to know because we haven't seen them play. We just haven't. Now, here's what we're going to do. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep going. Say hi to JJ. We say hi to James, still high on that Rustin victory. I would be too. Congratulations to the Bearcats. Have a friend on that staff. Really pumped up for him. Really pumped up. Go Bearcats. AP, what's up? JJ, what's on your mind, brother? The worst thing you can do is not be wanted. And you're right about that. You're all right. You give half your money to PHL. Huh? I appreciate it, Jared. Thank you so much. I don't know if it's necessarily half. I know for sure Nicole brings in the big bucks in the Addison household. Big shout out to Nicole. Let's see. They did, Jerry 823 coach. That was an interesting game. I know they had to move it was supposed to be on a Friday night. Weather was too bad. Then they played it the next Saturday, and DeSoto blew them out. Or I think it was kind of close, but they did win by multiple possessions. Let's see. Side to Christopher Westbrook watching on Facebook. Once again, sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm really blown away by that. I just watched or just recorded and posted, and the link will be live tomorrow. The Zion Thomas film study. Am I coming to the Senior Bowl if JE plays? That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Actually, that might actually work itself out. Let me see the actual date of the Senior Bowl. I know it's a week before the Super Bowl, so that would be February 2nd-ish. What's good? Yes, well, we talked a lot about Kaden Durham early in the stream. Dude, I mean, it's incredible. It's got a chance. What are we doing for signing day on Wednesday? We're going to do our normal 6 p.m. live stream on Wednesday night. Pretty excited about that. I want to also say this. Appreciate all the compliments I received for you guys tuned into a college basketball game that I called not too long ago. I love doing that. I love doing play-by-play. I'm no Adam Amin, but getting better every single time. It's not in my wheelhouse, but I love doing it. I want to get back at doing some football ones. I would love to do some play-by-play of some action midweek. That has to be the best, where you call a game and then you're able to go home and watch all the Saturday games. I bet you the action game is so much fun to listen to or call. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what happened to Wayne. No idea. Literally recorded, filmed it on content, and then boom. But sometimes it happens, you know? Jay Madison says he would shop his market as well. I do think it's a little bit different for LSU in this sense, right? If you're a home state kid and you make it work at LSU, there are so many opportunities for you if you stay at LSU, right? Now, Scooby, well, look at this. Like a T with another super chat. I'll address this really quickly. Very few ways have advantages with the pros. So one of those is the portal and their freedom, right? Same thing with high school recruiting. You know, you have a choice on where you want to go. In NFL, you get drafted where you want to go. Okay? Unless you're Eli Manning. Let's go to Like OT. He says, I know I'm late, but Kaden Durham is fast, like really fast. Like if he gets the slightest gap, the only way you'll get him is to FedEx him in the end zone. A follow-up here from Black OT. So I was going to say this, towards the end. All right. But we kind of are towards the end. Look at this, if you haven't seen it already. Look at all that LSU purple. That is so crazy. You go to a game, and imagine if you went to this game and you had no idea who Durham was, and you were like, wait, why are both teams red and white? But the guy who's making all the plays wearing not only purple gloves, but purple wrist tape and purple ankles. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. What a freaking photo this was. I got this off maxpreps.com. It's chilling, honestly. Can't freaking wait, man. Can't freaking wait. Scooby says no cap. Your wish is my demand. I'm just kidding. I said no cap. You can leave without anything in return for the school. Can talk with other schools anytime. Jacobian, what's good, man? Good to see you. Big Tank, need you back next year, big dog. No cap, can leave without anything in return for the school. Well, you can't talk with other schools at any time, but you can talk with other schools at any time, if you know what I mean. There's ways you can talk with other schools, right? Here's one way I could put it. If you're getting recruited by everyone, do you think you just lose those relationships with those other schools? You don't. There's also a lot of coaches that recruit you from one school that go to the next, right? It's one of the weird thing about recruiting is you can go from place to place, school to school. And it is semi-pro. And look, I think it will evolve and it'll eventually become more semi-pro-ish, if you will. And, God, this poll ended up being pretty daggum close. Look at this. Kaden Durham, Trey S. Green, Weston Davis. Durham and Green ended with the same amount of votes here. Very, very interesting. I don't remember a poll being that close. Kaden Durham, though. Normally, if you're the topic of the video, you're going to win the poll, right? That's normally the case. But that was not the case here. Very, very interesting. I forgot to put this at the beginning. Joshua Johnson, what's up? Terry Bussey, I'm working on that. Yeah, Pegasus, I have no idea the whole ruling behind all of that. Could he still be with the school and be with the team? Yeah, I think if he absolutely wanted to, he still could and still have time to enter the portal. But, when you're a quarterback, how many different destinations can you really go to that late into the process? It's hard. It's really, really, really hard. Oh, okay. Daddy Hillary watching. That's fun too. Seen you in here plenty of times. And you still have those same gloves. That's cool, man. Nothing wrong with that. Sage wanted 200K. I won't go any further on that. I touched on it in the Discord, and I don't know. Trade Green has had some crazy plays this year. AP's been in here tonight. Good to see you. Been a busy live stream. So there you go. Yeah, Pegasus, I don't know, but it could be one of those things where he wants to go take visits. He wants to actually, go through a full recruiting process, right? What if he's hurt? Okay. It might be some of that. There might be some people telling him, hey, we need to get you out. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, here's the good news. We will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central. We'll have it'll be a brief video tomorrow, somewhat brief, on Xavier Thomas. I'll be on AYS tomorrow at 7:30. And then Tuesday night, we'll be back at 8:15 Central. 200K Dogecoin. We almost had enough for the Malik card. We're about 30 away from that. Actually, no, I didn't do my math correctly. About 40 away from that. But don't worry. I'll take Dogecoin. I'll take Shiba. I'll take it all. I'll take pesos. I'll take Tiger Cash. I still have my LSU card here. How about this? I don't know if any of this personal information. I actually didn't have any of my stuff. I still have my student ID right there. Look at it. That's crazy. Huh? That is so wild. Look at that. That's nuts. Student ID. I still got it. I was talking about the Kim Mookie ejection. No, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Okay. But yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Hey, that's Power Hour LSU. Boom. Shout out to all our top super chatters tonight. Jared A. Simp, Sibley, Black Goatee. I really appreciate you guys so much. And tonight we are doing barbecue chicken. Let's freaking go. Almost choked tonight. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. And let's go. Whew.